Some rides are ordinary, but some take you places you were never meant to go. Tonight, a rideshare driver picks up a passenger, but something isn't right. A silent woman, a destination that shouldn't exist, a road that was never there before. Some roads only lead one way, and some passengers never leave. The Late Night Request. Daniel had been a rideshare driver for 3 years. He had seen all kinds of passengers, drunk, chatty, angry, and even a few that made him nervous. But nothing prepared him for the ride that would change his life forever. It was 2:47 a.m. when his phone buzzed with a ride request. He groaned, rubbing his tired eyes. It had been a slow night, and this might be his last fare before heading home. He glanced at the pickup location. A jolt of unease crawled up his spine. The request came from an abandoned gas station. Daniel hesitated. The place had been closed for years. The cracked pavement, broken down pumps, and shattered windows made it look like something straight out of a horror movie. Rumors swirled about the place. Strange lights at night, whispers on the wind, and missing people. But money was money, and he had bills to pay. With a deep breath, he accepted the request and drove toward the gas station. The silent passenger. As he approached, the gas station loomed in the darkness, its rusted sign barely holding on to its last few letters. The only light came from a single flickering street lamp. A woman stood beneath it. She was still, too still. She wore a black hoodie, hands tucked into her pockets, head tilted slightly downward. She did not wave. She did not check her phone. She just stood there. Daniel rolled down his window slightly, forcing a casual tone. Hey, you call a ride?" She nodded once. No smile, no words. The hair on his arm stood up. Something felt wrong, but he ignored the nagging feeling and unlocked the doors. She slid into the back seat without making a sound. The temperature in the car dropped instantly. Daniel shivered. So, where are we headed?" She finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "The old Ridgeway Motel." His stomach twisted. The Ridgeway Motel. The Ridgeway Motel had been abandoned for over 20 years. Everyone in town knew the story. A young woman had disappeared from room 306. The last security footage showed her stepping into a rideshare car late at night. She was never seen again. Some say she was murdered in that room. Others claimed she never left the motel at all, trapped there, forever. Daniel glanced at the woman in the mirror. "Are you sure that place has been closed for years?" She did not respond. Her hood cast a deep shadow over her face. He could not quite see her eyes. A heavy feeling settled over him, but he sighed and started driving. The uneasy ride. The road stretched out ahead, empty and endless. The woman remained silent. Daniel cleared his throat, trying to break the tension. "So, are you from around here?" No response. He forced a chuckle. "Not much of a talker, huh?" Nothing. Every few minutes, he glanced at the rearview mirror. Each time, the woman sat differently. At first, she faced forward. Then she was looking out the window. Then, she was staring at him. His grip on the steering wheel tightened. His throat felt dry. The air inside the car grew heavier, thicker, like it was pressing down on his chest. Then, his phone screen glitched. The GPS began recalculating, rerouting him to an unknown destination. The road ahead seemed different. Then, he saw something that made his heart stop. The tunnel that should not exist. A tunnel. But there was no tunnel on this road. He had driven this route 100 times. This tunnel had never been here before. The entrance was pitch black, lined with decayed bricks covered in strange symbols. The deeper he drove, the more the darkness swallowed his headlights. "You are going the wrong way," the woman whispered. Daniel's stomach twisted into a knot. "I am just following the GPS," he muttered. A faint static sound filled the car. The radio turned on by itself. A distorted voice crackled through the speakers. A woman's voice. "Should not have come back. Should have left me. Left me." His hands trembled on the wheel. Then he looked in the mirror again. The woman's hood was down. Her face was rotted. Her skin was gray, peeling, decayed. Her eyes were sunken, lips torn. Her mouth stretched into a horrific grin. "You should have said no," she whispered. Daniel slammed the brakes. The road that did not exist. The tunnel was gone. He was no longer on the same road. The Ridgeway Motel stood ahead of him, its neon vacancy sign buzzing weakly. But the building was wrong. The windows were covered in handprints. The doors were open, just slightly, as if inviting him in. The woman was gone. The back seat was empty, but the passenger door was still open. And on the seat, something rested, a tattered leather bag. Daniel's hands shook as he unzipped it. Inside, he found yellowed newspaper clippings. The first headline made his breath hitch. "Young woman goes missing. Last seen taking a ride from this very spot." His vision blurred as he pulled out an old photograph. The woman, the same one who had been in his car. A cold whisper filled the car. "Thanks for the ride." The vanishing. The next morning, Daniel's car was found parked in front of the Ridgeway Motel. The engine was still running. The doors were locked, but Daniel was gone. His phone was still open to the Rideshare app. A new request came in. Pickup location: the old gas station